Okay, good morning. We'll call this meeting of the Municipal Airport Authority of the City of Fargo to order on this Tuesday, May 14th at 8 a.m. A roll call, please.
Rashani. Here. Berg.
Here.
Cosgriff.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Capitan.
Here. And
Online. Randy, can you hear us online? Jordan?
Yes,
Oh, thank you.
we can hear you.
okay, everybody online here, it's okay?
Yep.
We can hear you.
Good. Item number 1, approve the minutes of the regular meeting held April 23rd, 2024.
So move.
Motion's been made. There is a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, approve the airport vouchers totaling $180,725.78.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman. Is the UBL Design Group, is that a subsidiary of Weeden Hunt? Is that Gina?
That's a separate thing. They did the independent fee review for the contracts. It's an architectural firm in Bismarck that did the independent fee review that the FAA requires on all of our contracts for architectural.
Did you say UBL?
A.
Jeff Wool, is that how you
Oh,
pronounce
yeah,
it?
that's, we're on number 2 yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So moved.
I apologize.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Rashani. Yes. Berg.
Yes.
Cosgriff.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye. Okay, approve individual vouchers A through H.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Did you get your question answered?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick historical question. And we do these by consent. I mean, it's grouped anyway, but just, is there a policy for reviewing bills of $1,000 and $6,000? Is that anything that comes out of the improvement fund? Has always been individual voucher, anything. Okay. Regardless, there could be some from the Fargo Forum for $40 for that. Is that just past practice, or is there a policy dictating that? It's through the audit of anything from the improvement fund. It's individually approved by the board, or anything out of the operations fund is individually or collectively done. Thank you.
Okay, motion's been made. Second.
Sure, second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Shawnee. Yes. Cosgrove.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
All right. Number 4, receive March financials and I daily financial data review.
Source CFO.
Hi, good morning. Is it okay if I stand right here?
Yep, we need you up here so you can
Okay.
get on the record.
Can everybody online hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
And I'm just going to apologize right away. My spring allergies hit yesterday, so my voice seems to go in and out. My name is Tana, and I'm from Eide Bailey. And a couple of weeks ago at the last board meeting, a commissioner had said, can you come and kind of explain what you're doing? We've been contracted with you guys for a couple of months, and so we've done a lot of behind the scenes work. And so it really is a good time just for us to come and kind of give you a high level of what we're working on, because I work with Sean on a weekly basis and Weeden Hunt and everything. But just to give you guys a high level overview so you know what's going on, and also so you guys know that I'm a real person and I just don't put a picture online and show up every day. So just to kind of start at the beginning, you guys have a very tiny spreadsheet in front of you, basically. And I don't expect you to read it or go through it, but what it is...
Let's make sure we all have it.
Okay. It is like this.
The one you need binoculars.
Okay. I got it.
Can the host enable sharing so we can share some screens up there?
There we go.
Perfect. You should be good now, Natalie.
Okay, that way I can zoom in a little bit and then hopefully people won't need binoculars.
Okay. What's in front of you is just something that we have been putting together. It started with Leibowitz Importance model that they did, just putting together a inflows and outflows sheet of the terminal projects and the parking project. And what we have done is we have worked with Sean to bring in every project that's going on at the airport, from small to big, all encompassing, so we can get a true cash forecast of what it's going to look like through 2027 and into 2028. And so that's this page in front of you, kind of breaks everything down. We have it forecasted out by month. This kind of puts it into a forecast by quarter for you. And then every time balance, tax, and accounting finalizes the financials, so right now they haven't finalized through March, we bring in and record the actuals. So right now it's only the actuals through the first quarter of 2024. Everything else is forecasted out even though we're into May. But we want to make sure they finalize that first. And keep in mind, as you look at this, this is an extremely fluid model. We update this, and every time McGow comes back and said, there's a bid package, here's the bid award, here's here's a forecast of new invoices. Every time there's changes, we always go in and update that. So what you're seeing today is not going to be what you see in 2 weeks or a month. But that is basically everything on paper. And what it does is it takes us to the next dashboards that I'm going to show you that will explain a little bit more in detail. But this is the basis of everything. So what our software does is it brings in all of the financials of the airport. So the first thing you're looking at is the cash balance of every account. The operating, the cash equivalents, the PFC, the capital savings, every account the airport has, those cash balances are reflected there for you. And then if we scroll down to the next one, that breaks down the operating cash in a little bit more detail, because we do have the First International checking and some savings accounts and things. So it just breaks it down in a little bit more detail. And these dashboards are not in your packet, but if it's something that you find useful, we can sure include it in the board packet each time. If you scroll down a little bit further, I know we had a conversation a couple of months ago, about operating or cash on hand days. What is a comfortable level to have cash on hand? And with conversations with Sean and looking back at prior letters from, I believe, Baker Tilly and stuff, we kind of came to the consensus that roughly around 450 to 500 days cash on hand is what we wanted to keep in the savings account. And so that blue chart on the left shows quarter by quarter the days cash on hand. And it's a little bit tough to see, but on the far right, you can see the last 4 are pretty low. That takes us out into like quarter 1 of 2027, where our cash on hand is getting a little low, below those 500 days, below the comfortable range. So that's something that we'll always keep our eye on. And like I said, this is fluid, so it depends on what if we get extra state funding in, what if we get a direct allocation from the state, what if we don't get a competitive award. All of that will affect that. So we change that as we have the information available.
500 days came from where? How was 500?
Well, a couple of years back, Baker Tilly had referenced in a letter to the airport that they just felt, 500 days cash on hand would be a comfortable level. And that's just kind of what we talked to Sean. He's comfortable with 500 days on hand. Gives us over a little bit of a year out there.
Mr. Chair, I also think that probably should be a policy decision of our board here. I think we've kind of fallen into that over the years, and we've had one of the reasons you want to reserve is if you have a problem like COVID, right? And actually, COVID was a moneymaker for us. And so I just think that has evolved over the years by people debating without really thinking through what happens if we stop, if we stop flying for a month or 2 months. How does that impact us? And so I don't think we need to debate that here right now, but I really would like us to put a thoughtful process together as far as what our reserve should be. And I don't think that's worth time and energy now until we get through this construction project, but that's.
Yeah, I do think, going back to the Springstead letter, if that's where you started, the question asked for in that letter was what would give us the most favorable interest rate if we were borrowing money, and what level of cash would creditors want to see on hand. And so I kind of think we started with that false premise.
Well, and that still might be the case as I go further down in the presentation. If we do have to go out and look for like revenue bonds or like a long-term line of credit or something, our days cash on hand could come into play then, like you said, with getting us better interest rates, the more days we do have.
But I do agree it needs to be more of a policy decision than just kind of this. I know when we first started, it was 800 plus days.
So anyway, I appreciate what you're doing here. This is really good. It gives us a feel quarter by quarter as we're going forward. And I think obviously it's fluid, right?
And we'll go with whatever you say. If you say cash on hand needs to be 300 or 1,000, we'll
I'm saying let's
still
continue
track it. Okay.
Excuse me, as an additional guide, just to know like what the industry standard is. So like what other mid-sized airports across the country are doing
Okay.
would also maybe
Mr.
help
Chairman, I
guide
have
us.
that, so I can
You
share
do?
that with you.
Okay.
I got that about 6 months ago from Steve. And so again, it's like there's really no rhyme or reason, in my opinion. And so
Every airport's different based on their needs, and both Ide Bailey and Breeding Marts would tell you that if you put it in policy that it's going to be 300 days, that's not a finding. They want it to be fluid.
And it depends if you have any debt or you don't have debt. I mean, there's just a lot of variables that we need to think. And where this all came from is we had $50 million of cash we're sitting on. And so that was kind of a red flag when we're also taxing people at the same time. So I'm just, as we go through this construction project, when we come out the other end, I think we ought to have a decision on where we need to be.
And Sean makes a great point though, too. If you have a policy, it will be audited. So if you do drop below whatever you say the cash on hand needs to be, it will be an auditable finding and put in the annual audit
Keeping it
report.
fluid as
So
a practice is the way to do it. That's what other airports are doing.
Okay.
As soon as you
Like
say
I
it's
said, I
300 days,
don't really,
you're stuck.
I don't really
Yeah.
want to discuss this
There's
anymore.
No,
no more to
that's-
discuss about it. It's our practice is working just fine.
in
The
the
practice that we're
prior
doing is working just fine. There's no policy that's necessary.
airport I came from, we didn't have one either.
No, you don't.
Okay, I'm sorry, Sean.
No.
Tell me again what you just said. 'Cause I
said no
don't agree
policies.
with you.
Well, no policy is required. Just keep it as a practice. Ide Bailey, as an audit, would tell you that. So would Brady Martz, our current auditor.
So
Keep it as a
should-
practice.
Should it be a practice of 500 or 1,000 or
A goal.
800 days?
It's a goal.
What should our goal be?
Well, we're talking about
I think
500
it should be
days
roughly
prior.
500.
That's a good practice.
And you don't think that should be a decision by the board?
Can be. That's a recommendation. I mean, that's what the other boards have followed for all these years as a practice. It was 800 days. Now, if you're talking 500, I mean, that's fine. But to specifically say 500 days, then
Well,
I'll tell you not to.
we can get into this as we go, but it's very simple to set a policy of a range and the things considered to put into it. Sean, you're mistaking. If you have a policy, it will be audited. To Ide Bailey is telling you to do that. Okay, it'll be audited and it'll be a finding, but that doesn't mean Ide Bailey is advocating 500 days. They're saying you set a policy.
You're saying
So
not to set a policy.
what Mr. Berg is talking about is identifying what we should be targeting. And yes, we have to answer to the elected officials. We're currently sitting on $57 million. And Do we need that much cash on hand?
Okay, well, we'll just keep going on then. The green chart on the right is the investment balances. And these are the investments that are currently held in PFM. And there's probably roughly 10 or 12 that are in PFM that are maturing between now and June 2025. And so that is why after the first quarter you will see the balance dip, is because what I do every time the investments come due is I reach out to PFM. I also reach out to First International Bank and get their rates and their terms based on when we know we're going to need that influx of money into our model, or when we are going to need that money. So the first few that have come due have proven that we could invest it for a year. Going out 18 months, we don't want to take that chance right now until we get some of the certainties on the awards. And what we have found is that First International's money market rate of 5.25% right now beats any investment rate out there that even First International can offer, as well as PFM. And so we have let those mature and have cashed out, and they are in the savings account right now earning 5.25%. I do talk to the banker at First International at least once a month, and we monitor what he thinks the money markets are doing or what the investment rates are. And if the money market starts coming down and the other rates start going up, I will go back to PFM and First International and ask for new rates and possibly reinvest the monies. But for right now, those ones that have matured are sitting in the savings account at 5.25%.
Do we have a cap on the PFM amount?
I don't believe we did, but it was right around 20 million.
That was the amount that we originally started with.
That was what was in there initially. Yeah, and a couple have matured, so it was probably right around 18 million. We had 2.1 mature in March and then 2.28 in April.
So we would flex up or down based on available returns and cash flow needs.
Exactly, and it might just not be one investment. Usually standard practice had been to do 2 investments, like $1 million, $1.5 million, different terms and stuff. So we'll look at that when we determine that we should put it back into the markets.
Now we're in a pretty fluid time, so if we get through these construction projects, get more stability there.
Right, and as long as, I mean, the savings money is liquid money to us, and as long as the rates are higher than locking it in, I'm good with it in the savings account.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, now the next one's down a little bit here. It just kind of gives you a summary of the airport grants. There's a lot of grants out there. We have a lot of AIP, AIG funds, North Dakota Aeronautics, entitlements, carryover funds, competitive grants, non-competitive grants. So all of those are just basically summarized for you so you can see. It probably doesn't mean much to you, but we do have it summarized by quarter when we, at this point, know or have a plan for those grants to come in.
And Tana, it's probably good to highlight that right now we do not have anything for the state direct allocation in here. Instead, it's the $27 million loan of some kind right now. But that can obviously change if we are able to get something from the state as a direct allocation.
Correct. Yeah, good point, Natalie. We do have the Bank of North Dakota loan, the 27.7 million, or that is not the Bank of North Dakota loan. I'm sorry.
Correct.
It is the 27.7 that, based on our forecast, we know we're going to have to put those funds out there, and we know we're going to need them. And I can speak a little bit about that as we get down further, but we know we're going to need an influx of money.
Well, I think
right
before
there.
you leave that, I
Okay.
want to go back down. I think this is really, from a board member, what our interest is. We're looking at this is you're showing what's guaranteed and what's been awarded, and then you're showing what hasn't been awarded. And so I think that's really from our perspective and for all of the people that are involved in this project, to be aware of when those dates are. And so if they get delayed or deferred or not awarded, we're able to know right away what is our plan B.
Okay, and I can make sure just to keep you updated if something falls outside of what we had originally forecasted.
Sure. And so then again, so that state grant is not guaranteed.
We don't have that in there at all right now. And I'm sorry to bring that up, Sean, if it wasn't part of the conversation,
You
but
can just keep going. We don't need,
okay,
we just go ahead. I don't want to throw you off track.
okay. So the next one is
I
just
do
the,
think we need to talk about that state money though, because that's a part of this.
Yeah, well, again, we want to, for me, I'd like to know when things are committed to, we know that's in the bank, so to speak. And when
Sure.
there's something that's not committed to, or we're not going to get, that could stop our construction project. So,
sure, we can keep you updated as to what's changing with the inflows of money too with the grants.
right, so there's a big grant we're hoping for from the state. That would be about 40 million. Then we have the loan of the Bank of North Dakota, and there's a potential of getting more money from the Bank of North Dakota.
And right now, we do not have that 40 million allocated in there anywhere right now.
The loan,
The law, yeah,
the cash,
The 40 million
cash.
the grant.
grant.
Okay.
Yep, we do not have that. We do have the 27.7 million in there.
And then we have the 40 million loan for the garage.
North Dakota.
That
We
was
do have that.
confusing because there's a $40 million grant.
I know.
What is the 27 million?
That is just the extra money that is going to be needed at this point to fund all of these projects on this list.
So that, okay. So the question is, how are we filling that gap?
I'll get to that for
Okay,
you.
right.
Good question.
The other thing I know we'll have to refine, but we have other projects in here, correct?
Yep.
We do.
And those are the projects that we won't start unless we get grant money. So how are we dealing with that in this
Well,
analysis?
we deal with it by every quarter. I take a look at it, and we are at the end of March. So soon I will sit down with Sean and say, here's all these extra projects. What's our timeline? Are we pushing them? Are they on track? Where are they at? And then we'll adjust our forecast. And by adjusting our forecast, isn't going to change when we know the grants are coming in, but it will change the expenses. So it will change the timeline of when we need to have an influx of cash into the budget.
Yeah, what I'm getting at, and this gets a little probably deeper than we need to right now, but if we have a capital improvement project on there and it's $20 million and it's anticipated that'll be $18 million grant funded, are we running that into this as the 18 isn't committed yet, but we still have the 20?
Both would be on there. So if there is a grant out there that's a competitive grant, yes, that would already be on this list, and then the project should be
Okay.
listed on there as well.
What I want to understand is that gap is that it might be a $20 million project. There's an $18 million grant. There's $2 million that has to be funded locally or whatever that is, but we will not commit to the $20 million project till we've got the 18. And so we don't kind of chase ourselves in a circle on
And that's something that I talked to Sean about. When the time comes for those kind of projects, it will be Sean who says, we're not getting all the grant money to cover this project. And we can look and discuss ideas if there's money in the savings account, if there's investment money we haven't used, or if he wants to push it a little bit further down the road, or what we should do with it.
Okay.
Right now, it would all be included. So it would be the project outflows, that $18 million grant, and the $2 million of cash are all built in right now.
Okay. But I don't want to get us caught in a situation where when we have large capital improvement projects, we absolutely know they will not start unless the grant money is in place. But if we're carrying that as a gap all the way along and it's not being approved, we're kind of understating our available cash.
Understood. Okay. The next two only focuses on the terminal and the parking. It does not focus on any other capital projects that are out there. The left side says airport construction. That is the terminal. So the green line is the income that we have coming in based on our forecast. And then the orange line that we have coming in, that is the expenses. So you will see that big gap there. That is what we work on to determine which monies we use to plug that gap. Do we need to fill it with savings money? How do we need to fill it? But we know that that is our time when we have gaps in our expenses exceeding our income. And
And the green does include debt as well.
And the right side is the parking garage or the parking construction. The 40 million there is the Bank of North Dakota. That is the solid line across the $40 million Bank of North Dakota. And we do need to draw on that by June 14th, so we will be doing that. The top line is the expenses. And so
Natalie said that includes debt on both the airport and the parking.
I'm sorry, what?
I think the statement was made, the green line includes debt at this point.
Excludes.
Includes.
Includes. It does not include cash injections, but it does include debt. So that the gap that you're seeing is what we need to pull on from cash and savings and investments.
And the debt is just the 40 million. It's not.
On the airport, it's an assumed 27 million, which is not committed at this point. And then on the parking garage, it's the 40 million that is already in existence with starting to pull in June.
Okay, and at the divergence point there, what time period's that? October or no,
Q1 2025.
2025 is where we start to have the deficit.
Yes, funded by investments.
And what it would help me to, at that point, what's our cash look like?
Q1 of 2025.
Yeah.
We are over here. So 32 million in operating and 27 million in the capital accounts.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to track it as we start having that divergence gap there, but we're still sitting on quite a bit of cash there. And again, it goes back to policy. If we're going to drop under 500 days, but during a big project like this, I would expect cash to drop down. Thank you.
So what we are finding is that come Q1 of 2025 is where we will be starting to look to other forms of money out there, whether it's revenue bonds or whether it's a line of credit. We feel we should have something in place by first quarter 2025. If the state allocation does not come through, if the competitive grants do not come through, we feel that that is our break point where we need to have something in place. At this point, we have been looking at and have briefly talked about initially getting figures from Baker Tilly regarding the revenue bonds, but having our first choice be the line of credit. That way we could advance the line of credit in hopes that a state allocation fund would come through or in hopes some other funding would come through. If that other funding falls through, we could then take that line of credit and roll it and turn it into revenue bonds. And so that is something we are looking into, rates, terms, payments, everything like that right now to have a plan in place how to move forward and get something in place by next January.
One quick question.
Sure.
If you scroll down back to the parking ramp, the parking construction, and then, so the ramp will be completed and we'll be generating some revenue due to the parking fees. Is that incorporated anywhere?
Yes, that would be incorporated into the parking income and expense model, which impacts the operating cash. But not on this chart. This is just the construction, but the resulting revenue is also built in.
Okay.
And that's based on, there was a calculation done. I don't remember who had done it. Maybe it was, I can't think of the company that does the parking right now, forgive me. But I think they had made some assumptions over what that revenue increase could look like. And so we capitalized on that and built it into the model. SP, right? SP plus.
So you're saying the revenue from parking is just coming in through the increase. If we went back to the operating cash, we have increased operating cash. In that critical point of first quarter of 2025 is 32 million, correct? So that the operations of the parking ramp will be contributing to the 32 million.
Yes.
That is correct.
And have you built into this model the mill levy each year
Yes.
at 2 mills?
So for the tax levy,
Yeah.
we used the increase that we got from the city of Fargo. I think I'll have to look that up. I think it was like 5.6%. Does that sound right, Sean?
5 or 6, I don't recall.
So this model assumes the 2 mills continues each year.
Yes.
So I tried not to go too far into the weeds, but we wanted to kind of just put it out there so you guys get a good understanding of what we're looking at daily, weekly, monthly, and how we're tracking things. And then to ask if these dashboards and stuff, would they be helpful to you to have in a board packet? Would you just prefer that we just give a presentation on it every 6 weeks or once a quarter, or?
What are your wishes?
Well, I think from my perspective, I'd like to take a look at it so we understand it, kind of like we did now, and then just know that we're on track. We're not on track. Be good to have you come and present what's changed. So if there's a decision that we need to make, we can make that. So
Sure.
I think, John, you maybe have some thoughts, but I think keeping it simple is good.
And that's what we tried to do without, but sometimes when you keep it simple, you still end up digging a little deeper than what you wanted.
Sure.
But
I mean, my personal thought would be, once a quarter, if you came in and kind of went in more depth, and then, on the monthly, we're just supply the information to the board packet. We can continue to kind of talk about that and simplify that.
Yeah, I think what we should do is probably spend a little time with the dashboards for the monthly financial reviews. We've had way too much detail in that. So as we've whittled that down to.
And we can do the dashboard for you and then just put in a little summary piece for each dashboard so you understand what each one is and put it in the packet and then just present every quarter based on where things are at.
Well, and what we don't get a good handle on is our progress against budget during the year. And if we look right now through May, we're running hot on the budget by about $1 million in revenue. I don't know if that's if we're running above budget because of timing of expenses. Are we seeing revenues exceeding forecasts? But
I think we put that in there, did we not, Natalie, about why it was exceeding a little bit better than what we initially planned?
We put in the explanations on the operating expenses. So a lot of it was staffing and just still needing to fill some positions. And then there was security as well, where the airport at one point was supposed to take on some of the security, but that is being pushed back. I think, didn't that come from the TSA? So I think that we had one other explanation on one of the biggest variances on expenses. So we can continue having those in the packet. Did
Yeah,
everyone see that? Do you want me to pull that up?
well, I can pull it up, but I'd also like to see what's happening on the revenue
On
side.
the revenue side? Okay,
I mean,
yeah, we can certainly do that.
our budget,
Sean, on the top of your head, do you have any, revenue overall was running a little higher? And I know we talked about it. I can't remember what we boiled that down to.
A little bit of parking and some of the concession revenue, but we also took in our cash rent for the farm that comes in one lump sum, so it's one payment on May 1st. So I mean, it's just the timing of some of the revenue when it comes in as well.
But yeah, we can certainly start putting some narrative in for that part as well. And that is just looking at the operating department. So, I think just keep that in mind. It's not going to have the property taxes and things like that in there, but the day-to-day, that's what you're going to look at there.
Are there any other questions for me or Natalie?
Appreciate you coming in and presenting in person.
It was
Thank you.
good. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay,
welcome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Item number 5, receive update regarding parking structure and Skyway project.
We have some good news. We're asking you about the bid package GMP 2R. We're using R for the ramp. Our second bid package came in at $8,766,000 and $8,766,244. The cool thing about that is our last bid package, we were trending about $200,000 under our budget, and with this one, we're trending just a hair under $800,000 under our budget. So we're doing good on our budgeting issues. So that's exciting. And then bid package 3 is actually going to be bid on Thursday, and basically there's masonry, framing and insulation, metal panels, roofing, glazing, signage, parking equipment, fire suppression, plumbing, electrical, landscaping. So that'll be our last one for the ramp itself, and then sometime in July we'll be putting one out for the Skyway. And I believe Sean's got some documents that combine those bid packages 1 and 2 into $29,029,000 roughly. So I believe you have
You have to approve GMP number 2R for the ramp.
correct.
In the amount of $8,766,244, which brings the total after you approve this up to $25,029,055 so far with the 2 GMPs.
That figure again is 8 million what?
GMP 2 is $8,766,244. And you combine that with GMP 1 that you've already approved is $25,029,185.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
second.
Motion been made. Second. Roll call, please.
Shawnee. Yeah.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Heckman.
Aye.
Yapatan.
Yes.
Next one on there, Terry, is the testing. Do you want to explain that? You got, in your packet, there were two bids,
Yeah,
one from Monroe testing and the other from Braun.
Yeah, so in any project that we do, whether it's public or private, we have a testing requirement that's really a code generated. And I believe in public projects, it's actually dictated that. So we go out for bids, and we got 3 different bids on the testing of it. And so they're testing concrete and welding and other things. And there's kind of the same group of people that do it almost always. And then, so American Testing Company got this one for a little over $85,000. And the other bids were more, they're very comparable. They always are. We put something out that kind of tells them what we're asking for. And then that's something that the airport pays directly. So it doesn't go through the contractor. So it's an independent test and contracted with the airport directly. So that's another one that we need to approve, I guess.
$84,588.
Okay, is there is there a motion to that effect? Accepting the testing contract for $84,558.
So
Been made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Shawnee. Yes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now receive update from SP Plus.
So Jeff Klein and Greg Pearson will partner on this one here. Information that was handed out from SP Plus.
Good morning, everyone.
Do you want to take one of those and pass her? Actually, can you bring up the map? PDF that I sent you yesterday.
Rick, I think you got more than
Okay, I thought I'd spend some time here talking about parking and then the need for a lot of some form by the fall of 2024. So right now, obviously, you know, within the next few weeks, the parking structure is going to start. That's kind of the area in red, and when that happens, there's going to be roughly 350 stalls that are lost just because McGough has to secure the site for construction purposes. So right now, the intention is to build a temporary lot up in the far left corner right there in blue, roughly 366 stalls. Again, that needs to be in place by October, November of this year when construction season ends for winter and it's available for use come peak season, February, March 2025. So, and then the intention would be to run a shuttle service from there, bring passengers up to the terminal building. So just to give you a little background on how we arrived at a temporary lot, if you can bring that graph up now, and I'll bring this back up after to explain this graph. Darren's bringing this graph up that you guys just got a copy of.
Hold on. Thank you, Todd.
Project fifth one down. Projected parking. Okay, so here's a seeming it's not a complicated graph. There's a lot of work going on, but what it represents is on the left hand side there. It's showing the current capacity today, prior to the parking structure starting, of 2,466 stalls between the economy lot, the short-term lot, and the long-term lots. That's what you have today. And then over time, SP Plus has tracked the peak parking demand that generally happens, February or March of each year. So that's the dark green line that you see on the bottom there. Obviously, the dip in that line in 2021 is a result of COVID, and then coming out of COVID, it rapidly recovered, and then just this last year in 2024, the peak demand tailed off at 2,116 stalls. So, point is that right now there's sufficient parking out there, even prior to the parking structure being constructed. Now you go to the upper right there, we're showing 3,216 stalls of total capacity once the parking structure is built. If we were to turn the temporary parking lot into a permanent lot, you're going to have 3,582 stalls. That's the dashed green line at the top. So with that in mind, there's various rates of growth, that you can see there on the right-hand side, anywhere from just the master plan growth, which is roughly at 2%, which is the orange line with the X's on it, all the way up to 10% growth. Really, it's anybody's, guess, as to what that rate is going to be. We had made the assumption that it's going to, the parking demand is going to reflect what the growth is in the master plan, which in this case, you're going to have, even with the parking structure, you're going to have enough parking, well off and beyond 2037. If it's just more of a straight line growth, which is the red dashed line, you're going to have enough parking with the parking structure until 2034. So,
Just a question. So you got 2023 peak of 2,533 stalls, correct?
say that again, I'm sorry.
The peak in the green,
In the
the lower.
2023.
It's 2,533.
Yes, yep.
Capacity is 2,466. Wouldn't that push it above that 2,466 line? It looks like if I'm understanding this, we had more cars than we had stalls.
I will have to check that. My apologies.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so that kind of throws everything off. But maybe we're not looking at it right. But I think there's two issues here. One issue is we're trying to replace 350 stalls on where the parking ramp's going to go. So the question is, if in fact at 2024 of 2,100 was our peak, we maybe have 300 stalls already in there that aren't being used. So we probably don't need to replicate the whole.
I will get that corrected and sent out to the authority. So that's on me. So get that.
So you're saying the 2533 is in error at this point?
Yes.
Well, the 2530 is the right number on the graph right. Is that correct?
Well, but it's under the 2,500 line, so it's going to skew everything right.
Yeah, I think the 2533, the number showing is wrong. The graph is correct because everything else reads correctly.
So we'll get it corrected.
So if the graph were correct, it would be about 2,250 stalls.
Right.
So you'd compare the 2,250 to the 2,460, and we have a capacity of 200 stalls existing. So really
I know the 2466 is correct. I know the 3216 is correct, and I know the
so my only question, Jeff, it's like, what capacity do we have right now? What excess capacity do we have from our peak of our parking to where we are?
you would
So
have
that's-
the capacity is 2466, and your 2024 peak was 2116.
Correct, but our all-time peak was 2023. So that difference is about 200 parking stalls. I'm just saying, so we probably need to replace 150 if you want to get 350, so we have stalls at our peak.
We need to replace the 350 stalls because you're losing 350 once the parking structure begins.
Correct. But my point is,
Yeah.
we are filling up our parking lot right now. In our peak time, we still have 200 stalls open.
Right.
So I'm saying we don't necessarily need to replace the 350. Because if we replace the 350, we'll still have 200 open stalls in our parking lot. Tracking?
In theory, yeah. In theory, you could have, but you also could have a winter where we get an abundance of snow, and then your parking efficiency is lost. I mean, we can build a temporary parking lot that's 100 stalls. We had I'd reached out to Greg, and his recommendation was just to replace it one for one. So,
The number we need to see is 2023. If the 2533 is incorrect, what's the correct number? Because you're saying the graphing's right, but was our peak in 2023 or was the peak 2024? Are we transposing those? We just need to see that number before we
correct. Yep.
before
I
we
will
can
get
do
that fixed.
anything, because if it were transposed, then that would bring it back, and your everything to the right would change. Unless you're telling me the 2533 is absolutely a wrong number.
Yeah, from my standpoint, it appears to be plotted correctly. It's just, represented incorrectly.
Well, no, it's not. It's showing at about 2,400 or 2,300 on the plot.
Right.
But it's saying it's 2,500.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It's plotted to me correctly, but it's just typed incorrectly.
You're saying the number should be 23 instead.
That's correct. That's correct. I can double check and work with it to make sure, but it appears to be plotted correctly and graphed correctly.
But until we have that number, we need to know what we have to do.
But, Mr. Chairman, Jeff, don't get me wrong, but obviously we have to pay for another 200 stalls in temporary parking. So if I'm running the parking garage, I would say replace it one for one.
Yep.
If I'm the engineer, I would say place it one for one. But if I'm the owner, I'm saying let's not add 200 stalls that we don't need. It's going to cost us $500,000 or $700,000. And then at the end of the day, we've got 1,000 open stalls when we're trying to fill a parking garage.
Correct.
So that's kind of my initial question right now is how many extra stalls do we really need today? So that's why that gap is important. So I think you and Greg kind of talk about that. And then I think looking forward, I mean, those are pretty much all assumptions.
No question. Yeah,
So I guess that's, what are you looking for us in that? What is the...
I'm just trying to provide some background information, how we arrived at, just a plan to build a temporary lot. So build it for the duration of the parking structure, take it out, at a cost of, roughly $800,000. So now, Darren, if you want to bring up that map again.
I'm trying to understand the issue. So you're saying, what are you supposed to decide on? Whether we put in the temporary and then take it out?
Or just build a permanent parking lot at a higher cost. So right now we have a temporary lot, roughly $800,000 cost. There's been discussions on turning it into a permanent facility so you don't lose the, $800,000 investment. So, this is what, we could turn that blue parking lot into a permanent project or a permanent parking lot at roughly a cost of $2.7 million. I just wanted to provide the background on, understanding that money is tight, between the parking structure itself and the terminal that, let's go the less expensive option. Obviously, it's less than ideal to spend, $800,000 and just lose it. I mean, but obviously money is tight as well. So we could turn it into a permanent pay lot for $2.7 million. Now, at the last meeting, there was some discussion on an expanded rental car facility. So in talking to Bernie Ness, they project a need for roughly 350 stalls within the next 3 to 5 years. That would be the light blue area in the upper right hand corner. The cost of that is going to be, probably over $3 million, just because you have the cost of the parking lot, plus you have the cost to build a new stormwater detention pond, plus you have the cost for relocating that service road, the West Perimeter Road. So my thought is, if you want to maintain that permanent paved surface, there really isn't once the parking lot is built, there's no immediate need to turn it into paved parking, but you could leave it in place for a rental car facility. And that's going to run in it's probably going to be $2.5 million, just because you don't have there's no need for kiosk, access control and guardrails and curb and gutter and, extensive lighting, that kind of thing. So it's still more money, but, it could be turned into a rental car facility.
So Jeff, I know that one of the concerns was getting paying for additional the drainage as opposed, like temporary as opposed to permanent.
Yep.
And I know that permeable concrete is more expensive, but would permeable concrete be less than putting in the whole drainage system?
It would probably be more expensive, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So
what you're saying, Jeff, is that if we did the dark blue as temporary public parking, and then when the terminal is done, that could be acceptable for a rental car lot.
Correct. At a cost of roughly $2 to $2.5 million.
Sure.
Now, I will point out that number is not factored into the financials that TANA has prepared, so that would have to be updated.
But the 854 for the temporary parking lot is
because that is in McGough's budget for the parking structure.
It's taking it out also.
Oh, it's not in there? Oh, okay.
Is taking it out also included?
That's part of the $800,000. Put it in, take it out.
Put it in,
Okay.
take it out.
And the 2-something to make it dark blue, the rental car lot versus 3-something of the light blue expansion of the rental car lot.
Correct, because on the light blue, you also have the added cost of relocating that service road. Yeah, so that's probably in the range of, $500,000. So.
And Greg and Jeff, as we're talking about the numbers, and I remember last winter we were at capacity on multiple occasions, and maybe that had to do with the snow, like where people don't see the lines. Were we at capacity this winter? Did we? And what would capacity, like how many times did we hit capacity?
I don't have the exact number, but that's exactly the reason for the recommendation to replace 1-for-1. Last winter, to your point, in 2023, which is when we peaked, based off that graph as well, we had a really, really rough winter. And there were many times in which the long-term lot, we did exceed capacity. So there were times where we had so many stalls and we may have had, 100 cars beyond the number of stalls that we had on any given day, just because people would park at the end of rows or wherever they could create a parking space. We got lucky this past winter. And so the thought was, we don't want to roll the dice and think that we're going to have 2 winners back to back that look the same. So that was also part of the reason. And then not to mention the price point of the short-term lot. All parking spaces or stalls are not created equal. And so by us losing the 238 stalls in the short-term lot at a higher price point, we definitely wanted to look at replacing that somewhere else in some shape, form, or fashion, whether through temporary lot and a combination of LA as well.
And when we're talking about 1-for-1 replacing parking spots, when we have hit capacity, and then we're gonna add 4 gates. So I would assume that our parking demand will grow once we have those new gates.
That's exactly it. And even organically without any expansion, the reservation platform has steadily increased each month. We've seen an increase in reservation folks that decided to make reservations. And those are new customers. These aren't customers that just would pull up and pull a ticket and decided to make a reservation. These are people that were not parking with us previously.
When's the rental car need anticipated? Is that, do we have a timeline on that?
Talking among the car rentals, we're thinking that probably in the 5-year range. Now, one of the benefits we have is there's a lot of asphalt on the other side of the terminal, or on the old terminal area, and so we use that for overflow. Our lots this spring were full because the manufacturer sent us, in our case, we had 100 cars that were supposed to be delivered in May that were delivered in March, which we didn't need. And so where do we put them? So, most of those went over to the other side. We
To the old
terminal. But as we grow and as we get more gates, we're going to get more flights. And like Grand Forks is an example. Their service is deteriorating, and we're the beneficiaries of that.
How long can we have a temporary parking lot?
What's the question?
I guess that's a question for the city, so.
How long can we have a temporary parking lot? I mean, if we put it in, do we have an agreement with the city that we're going to take it out in 24 months or 18 months or
10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talking off the top of my head, I wouldn't say more than a year. So, I mean, they're going to want to see a plan in place, I guess, to put in the stormwater detention. So.
Just one other question on the light blue for the future expansion. I know they talked about having the parking rental expand, but that seems like it didn't make a lot of sense. How about directly to the below for that current rental parking lot? Yeah, to the left there, go to the left. Yeah, was that ever thought of as an expansion for the rental cars?
No, because that's inside of security. It's used for snow storage, for plowing snow off the terminal ramp. There's a R1 aircraft parking position over there, so it's just kind of encroaching on the airfield side of the fence. So, and then obviously on the
I'm just
side, which would be the
more
top,
parking spots we can put closer to the terminal.
The happier we are.
Well, everyone is. And so it's kind of like, it seems to me that we have a lot of green space close to the terminal. And I just wanted to know that we've thought through that and ruled those out as potential parking expansion.
You're saying that's used now for parking aircraft? It looks just.
No,
like
green
grass.
is
snow, and then it's kind of hard to see on here, but there's a kind of a bump out in the taxiway center line, kind of the west side of the ramp. There's a RON remain overnight aircraft parking there. The tail will overhang the pavement.
And so if that weren't available for Snow, you'd have to push snow, 500 yards in a different direction? Is there just an operational solution to that on where you place snow? It's always nice to place snow in the easiest, quickest, but if that were a parking lot, could it be, are we overlooking what might not be a huge operational change?
Yeah, I guess I can't speak to the snow removal operations, so obviously the farther you put it away from the apron, the more challenging it is for the.
Yeah, but we aren't talking trucking snow a mile or 2 miles to a snow dump. We're talking about pushing it.
Like could it be pushed to the other green space that borders that? The blue, the access road?
I would say not, because then you're, you got to push it so far away from the taxiway center line because that's on the active airfield. So
that snow pile gets very large in the wintertime. That would be a difficult place to not have.
Or expanding that parking lot to the top of the screen there too, the west side. I know there's a drainage ditch 300-400 yards, but where that rental parking is, you could expand to the west, right?
That's a challenge too, because there's a setback requirement from Cass County, so that we have to stay out of. So
Be nice if it would work, because then you could avoid the drainage pot space.
Yeah, we built our new SRE building right here. You can see the new setback. You can see that right there to the drain versus the old setback.
Yes. So you could probably add at least a row or two on that side.
Jeff, do you need a decision right now? Do we need to?
yes, because
Time left.
right. It's only May, but winter is coming, and we need to, like I said, we have to have that parking in place by the time snow flies this fall. So I guess if it was up to me, just my recommendation was just to build a temporary lot. Don't overbuild now, and then get through these two big projects with the structure and the terminal itself, and then you can always revisit it after that down the road. So that'll give you a better picture of where the financials end up. And like Bernie said, they're talking 3 to 5 years regardless.
So what if we did build the teal spot, and we've talked about how could we reclaim the short-term parking revenue, and so then the rental cars could go in the teal spot because Bernie's need isn't for 3 to 5 years, and then you use the short-term, like move the short-term to where the rental cars are right now, because that would have nice access to the airport, and the rental cars are basically still in that same area.
Right. We had when we had initially started working on this project, we had engaged all the rental car companies to see if we could put this temporary lot in that exact area, and they weren't in favor of it, just from a safety standpoint, because they have all their cars over there, their wash facilities over there, and now we're mixing public the public with their facility. So they and Bernie can speak more to it if he wants, and so it was just concluded that we just keep them kind of separate from the rental car facility. So yes, that option was looked at.
Just to give you an idea, in the summertime, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we put out 300 to 500 cars. So there's a lot of going back and forth in that area. and years ago, the airport authority decided to put us in the corner. There was basically on a very serious accident on a rental car that was going to the other side of because our facilities were on the other side. And because of the potential of additional accidents, they chose to keep us in that corner. And it's been very good. It's been, so we don't have customers interacting with our service agents, who should be driving the speed limit and should be doing a lot of other things that don't necessarily always happen. And so by allowing us to be in that corner has been beneficial to both car rental and the safety of the passengers.
Another option here would be just to move forward with a plan to build a temporary lot this year, just so you have the parking available, and then come back next year with a separate project to put in the storm sewer detention to make it a permanent facility if you choose. So just to buy you some time.
So we're looking for a motion to build the temporary lot right now? Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
And how many spaces?
Right.
So he really needs a decision today so they can get the plans and specs together to get bids. If you want a temporary lot, or if you want to do it like Sioux Falls did and do nothing, just advertise, parking's limited. It would be a disservice to the customers.
What's your pleasure?
So we we don't have numbers, hard numbers on what the rental car expansion price would be, other than two to 2.5 million. I mean,
Not hard numbers, no. I'm just that light blue area in the upper right is going to be, $3+ million is my estimate. Just all.
what was the 2 and 2.5?
2.7 million would be if on the dark blue in the upper left, if we turn that into a paid public parking facility.
Or 800,000 for a temporary lot.
Correct.
Well, I like the option that we make it a temporary lot with the option to add the drainage and turn it into a permanent lot if need be. I think that gives us a little bit of flexibility.
How many spaces? You want the full 1-for-1 as Greg has recommended, or something less?
Well, I guess that's my frustration, is we don't have numbers here that are accurate. And I'm like, if we're making this decision, we don't want to waste money, right? So I think having the potential utilization of this in the future is a good option for us. We should consider that. But if we said, I mean, what you showed us is we have capacity of 218 parking spots right now at our peak. So if we added half that temporary lot, we made it half, that would give us 380 extra parking stalls in our parking area. Now, it doesn't account for snow and everything else, but I guess that's my concern. Is I think there's, and I don't know if that's cost 400,000 then rather than 800,000. But I like the idea of creating something too that long term is going to help the airport or the vendors at the airport. So I guess I feel like we've been backed in this corner here, and some of these things haven't been thought out that well.
Yeah, all we have are Jeff's estimates until we open bids. Then we'll have firm numbers. But we have to go with his estimates. But
I'm not saying the estimates. I'm just saying this whole master plan of where we're putting cars in our parking in our terminal.
Unless I'm mistaken, what you're talking about is our peak is about where they want to take 300 and some stalls out. Our peak parking was only 200 and something.
Yeah, at our peak, we had 200 extra stalls.
You want to build a temporary lot for 200 cars instead of the 3.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Why would we do more than that? And I think
100's better than nothing. 200 might be, in that range. I don't know that it has to be the full 350.
I think if that's a long-term solution for parking or for rental cars, that's the very best solution for rental cars long-term, and they're going to need it, then if we could utilize that to help that, so that's not a huge cost down the road, that makes sense. But again, I don't know what rental cars are willing to pay for that additional parking either.
I have to reflect back on when Sanford built a spectacular facility that they did. And the one thing that was said over and over again, we will never fill this parking lot. It's way oversized. If you've been out there lately, it's always full. You have to use a valet or just drive in circles until somebody. And with all due respect, I hear what Rick's saying as far as the numbers, but I've never heard somebody in hindsight say, boy, we really built too much parking.
And just to add to that, so I go back to the fact that we're taking out 238 spaces at $22. And so the biggest thing is you're going to have more people park with you because now you have more spaces at $9. And so that's the other part of this that I see where you're saying we have the capacity and we're kind of overbuilding possibly. I just see it a little differently because of the price point and the fact that once again, we have to factor in the growth, even if we use the master plan growth. And so I just don't want us to be in a position to where we have a really bad winter. And I've seen where, passengers create parking spaces and we just don't have any place to park everyone. But I'm not sure what the cost would be if we like cut the lot in half. And I don't know if you have that available, but that was the basis of the recommendation. We were taking out the highest price parking product and replacing it with the lowest, which to me means you're going to pull more people that are on the fence about parking.
I think one of the stumbling blocks is that it's temporary. So you can say, oh, our long-term plan, but we're talking about a lot that's only probably going to be there for a year.
Correct.
So unless we can make it permanent going forward.
I'll just add, I mean, if we look at our seats for the year, we've been kind of flat up till now, but April was a record month, but going out till December, I mean, we're up about 10% in seats. Now, we fill them or not, but that's just something to take into account that, we may, exceed our employments from last year. So then that gap really closes for parking spots. So.
Well, I think for me, it's new information that the temporary lot could be turned into a permanent lot down the road. if we see the need.
We got to probably make a motion. We've got to go with this temporary lot. We don't have any other options now. And if we think we can make it permanent down the road, we can do that. But I do think we ought to look at this whole master plan and figure out how we can do a better job of utilizing parking closer to the terminal. So I'd move that we adopt this plan.
Adopt this present plan, right?
Well, what you're presenting, that temporary lot out there.
At a 1-for-1 ratio?
Yeah.
So the light blue, the expansion of the car rental lot is in our master plan.
I'm just making a motion to move on that we do the dark blue.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to go with the dark blue plan.
Yep. At a 1-for-1.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Roll call.
Shawnee.
Yes.
Aye. Cosgrove.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right. So based on that, now the shuttle service becomes relevant. If you desire a shuttle in the valet, so great. That'll be provided to you on those two options. So you'd be looking for direction today to approve the shuttle or deny it. Approve valet or deny it. They have a lead to get people hired.
Well, it's part of the plan. I would move to approve the proposal by SP Plus.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
A motion's been made to approve the SP plan for shuttle service.
And that was to use part of the East Economy lot. Greg?
So that would be for valet. It's two separate pieces. If we're just looking to build a temp lot and provide shuttle service to that lot, that's one budget. And then there's the budget for valet if we want to use part of the East or West Economy lot, take out 100 stalls and use that as a staging area for valet.
And I think we try the valet. I'm not convinced that it's going to work, but I would hope that we would be flexible, and if we aren't seeing the demand for valet, that we would not continue to run it if it's not being utilized at this point.
Yeah, and if we want to, hold off, it's perfectly fine. We can. It's totally up to the board. I just wanted to provide you with both options.
Into this,
just to make sure we stay engaged with that customer that's willing to pay $22 per day, which is why we set the price point at $28.
As we go into this, we have to go in with a full-fledged plan. Here's what's happening, and to promote it. But again, it's like the meet and greet spots. Still not seeing any usage there. So let's not stick with it if it's not working.
So,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, with the shuttle service, could you keep us informed as to the ridership, the reaction, and we're going with the open trunk plan?
Yep. I can definitely provide you with reports and metrics at whatever tempo you desire. But yeah, we will do automatic passenger counts. Well, not automatic, it'll be manual. We'll make sure the shuttle drivers keep account of how many passengers they're transporting.
Because the shuttle plan is an expensive plan.
It is.
I mean, just so costly. So it'd be good to know how the ridership is and what the reaction to the public is. If they're getting frustrated waiting for a shuttle, is it worth it? Or, I mean, do you just drop the price to the longest walk for $1 and have people just know that that's the situation, that they're going to have to walk a long ways, and that a shuttle wouldn't be available because it is such an expensive endeavor.
It is, and it's the shuttle cost itself, to your point. But yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that, and similar to what John just recommended, if we yank the Band-Aid off with your approval, if we find that it's more cost prohibitive than what it's worth.
I think the valet could be really popular because clearly people are willing to spend more to park in short term. So I think the valet could be very successful. We'll see.
the temporary lot, if it was $1 to $3 a day, that lot would be full.
Mm-hmm.
That's just based on the calls that we get. Greg, you're proposing to start the valet in July. Is that correct, based on the spreadsheet that the board was provided today?
Right, and that was based off of our 60-day lead time. So if the board desired to move forward, we would just want 60 days to stand it up. Yeah.
So I mean, if the board's okay with starting it in July, or do you prefer to wait until fall? I mean,
Greg, do you think we'll have the demand in July?
It'll probably be very slow to start off with, and that's really what I want to do, is set expectations and say that let's not grade this in the first month or two if we start this. I really just timed it around the start of construction. But to your point, I think it'll be definitely more popular as we approach the winter months.
so we'd have them work with Flint to promote valet service if it's your desire to start at July 1. Or July it is.
There's a motion to accept the valet service and shuttle service.
There wasn't a second.
I'll be happy to second.
Motion and a second. All right. Second.
Oh, it was? Oh, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Rashani, yes. Osborne.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Nevatin.
Aye. Okay, let's
Mr.
move
Chairman,
on.
just as a quick add-on comment, I don't mind it starting slow, like a restaurant. Let's have it start slow, get it all working, people will get used to it. And again, I go back to Sanford, their valet started very slowly too. And as people got more frustrated looking for parking, suddenly the valet's absolutely worthwhile.
I agree. Okay, item number 6, receive passenger terminal project update. Brandon,
He's online.
Morning, everybody. Just an update on the terminal where we're sitting. A lot of things happening in the background. I think, as you guys know, and hopefully it's on your calendar, June 3rd, that we have the groundbreaking. So I'm really excited to, I'll be there for that and see y'all in person. It's been too long. McGough is also, you probably noticed that they're putting the temporary fencing up. They're for the existing elevator. They're lining up inspections with the city to get that operational. So that is on the horizon here, expected in the next couple weeks. They have their job trailer up. Temporary walks for the employee parking place, so you can see a lot's starting to happen here. And then in the background, McGough has received bids for GMP, what we're calling GMP number 3, T, to keep it straight from the T for terminal, P for parking. That'll be the remainder of the additions. So that's like the interiors and the shell and all the windows to get it enclosed and finished. You'll be seeing that once the bids are all qualified. That will be coming to the board, expected June 11th. So more to come on that, but rest assured that we're there right now. McGough is just going through all the bids they received, making sure that they have everything covered. There's no gaps and overlaps, and just working through that. And then I think I mentioned before, the last GMP, which will be added to the contract, GMP 4T, is expected to be rolled into the contract in January of 2025, and that aligns with what Tana was showing on her financial flow charts. So right now we are looking at that we're within budget, and that will be of course updated as soon as the bids are solidified and we get that GMP put together. Oh, and then also just a little thing, they're also going to be rerouting the tug route in the back, so the overhead door is getting relocated. Another thing McGough's working on, just in case you're curious. Any questions on terminal progress?
questions, discussion? None?
None? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7, receive bid tabulation and recommendation of award from the
This is our periodic airfield pavement marking restoration rehabilitation project. I recommend you award this $1,220.
Mr. Chairman, were there any competing bids?
Yeah, Farner is on there. It's on the same page.
Oh, it's on the same page. Oh, got it. Thank you. Okay.
I just have a question. I hope it's good news, but engineer's estimate was almost double this amount. Are we seeing changes in the industry? Are we starting to see prices come down? Or was it a swing and a miss? Or and I know it deals with painting, and we had some discussion on paint colors and
supplementing your
costs.
retirement plan here.
No.
But
So,
I mean, that's
I had
a
the same
huge
concern. So
difference.
here's how we arrived at our engineer's estimate. So obviously we put all our quantities together, and we had compared pricing on a recently bid project in Brainerd, Minnesota, which was like painting was like right around $1 a square foot. And then to a project that we had recently bid in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and it was like $5 a square foot. So we had kind of split the difference between the two, and what ended up happening is the pricing was more in line with the Brainerd project. So I was kind of concerned, you get so many variables, so sometimes it can be rather difficult to estimate.
So the $5 a square foot was outlier or different
it was
specs or different something?
Similar project. It was just, and the reason I lowered the price is because we got high in Grand Forks, lower in Brainerd. I mean, it's a similar project, so I mean, it's not different specs. It's all done to FAA standards, that kind of thing. So that's why I made the decision just based for estimating purposes, just kind of hit the center. So fortunately for the airport, it's on the board. So
Highlight's done a lot of work here. They come from New York.
Right. They're extremely good.
No, I'm not complaining about the low bid. I'm complaining about our decision making based on engineers' estimates and being off by a magnitude of double.
Yep.
And yes, thankfully it was on the low end, but
correct.
At the high end, everybody would be losing their mind here. It would have been double. So I think we need to understand on both ends of it.
Correct. So.
And are there any issues with paint acquisition or paint supplies like we experienced? Was it last year?
I don't know. I think we're beyond it. Yes, there was problems with that, a few years ago, but
certain colors were tough to get.
I think red, for whatever reason, was tough to get, but I haven't heard anything from Highlight.
So we should be okay then with this.
Should be because of the resin problem with the freezing down in Texas, so they couldn't get resin.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
And John, to your point, I think we are seeing a softening in prices now.
Good.
And the number of bidders are out there. And we just bid something with McGough actually down in Wahpeton and came in much lower than our estimate and had tons of bidders on it. So we're starting to see a softening in the market of not so much work and the subcontractors being able to drive prices so badly. And I think we're going to continue to see that. So
good.
Any further discussion? Not, is there a motion?
So move.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Shawnee. Cosgrove.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Apatu.
Aye.
And I will say that the 2553 that was on the graph should have been 2253. So it was graphed right, it was just labeled incorrectly. So I'll get that updated and sent out to the authority. So
thank you.
Okay, item number 8, received communication from 1954 Investment Group Men's Hair House regarding month-to-month lease in East Terminal.
So Troy Reinhardt is moving his operation into a new facility, and we've agreed to allow him to stay month to month until he occupies that. It's a 3% escalator. Stacy's taking care of the lease arrangement. And Rick is ready to fill the space as soon as we have a firm date from Troy.
Okay, discussion? Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 9, received communication from Big Blue Hangar Association requesting 5-year ground lease extension.
A large T hangar just to the east of Hangar 19, and their lease is up. The exterior of the facility is in good shape, so we'd recommend a 5-year ground lease extension for them.
So moved. Motion's been made.
Mr. Chairman, Sean, is it the same price? Is there a price escalation for the 5 years?
I would approve that. I think it's 15 cents this year, 18 cents next year, and then we don't have an escalation after that. Probably will level off.
Okay, just double checking on that. I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
I'll just say that the West Winds just to the north of there is up as well. I met over there with Jim Blotsky, Ed Clapp, and some others. They have some serious exterior issues to address, which they will. And I think what we do is give them a 1-year extension as they put their plan together as an association to reside at the West Winds. But that'll be coming to you as well. But their lease is up about the same time. So that'll be coming up.
Item 10, received communication from Cass County regarding storage building plans on airport property.
So this is directly north of the Air Museum, where the Cass County Sheriff's Office leases 4.42 acres from the Airport Authority, and they have a plan to install a storage facility. I've been in contact with the contractor and Mr. Wilson. You've got the handout there. We just have to put it on the public record that there's going to be some improvements made to property that the Airport Authority owns. They're working through the airspace study and also with FAA approval. I don't know if they're working with you, Jeff, or if they've hired a different engineer to get the airspace study done, but I'd recommend your approval of this year. They're already paying us 25 cents a square foot for the space. I think they're due to go up to 30 cents later this year. I'll double check the lease, but they're due for a rate adjustment coming up soon. So I'd look for your approval.
So move.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Motion been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Number 11, authorize attendance Airfield Marking Professional Symposium and AAAE National Airport Conference and the Allegiant Annual Conference in October. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 12, continue discussion regarding the proposed electronic sign.
So I don't see Jill isn't here. I don't know, Jody, did you have any updates? She told us at the last meeting Jill would be here. Go ahead.
I believe Jill was planning to be at the next meeting with different options, prices, sizes, styles, etc.
Last meeting, so there would be at this meeting, so okay.
Okay.
We just have a question regarding the logo discussion. So I think in August, we presented some logo options to refresh the logo, and it came up again. Commissioner Strand brought it up last time we met in conjunction with the sign. So we just need to know, should we explore that? What do you guys want us to do with that?
Do we need a motion? Mr. Chairman?
I don't know if you need a motion.
Well, I suppose you can entertain a motion to change the logo or not.
We had discussed, I guess, I thought we had gone forward with looking at the rebranding and everything. It's all part of the marketing that's moving forward.
Yeah, so Commissioner Strand made a good comment about if the electronic signage moves forward, it makes sense to close the book on the brand refresh. So we just need direction. If you guys want to relook at those, do you want to?
How about, Mr. Chairman, how about a motion to have you present logo options at perhaps the next meeting if Flint would be ready?
Yeah, I mean, we presented them in August, so do you guys want to look at those again? Do you want us to present different options? Do you want us?
Well,
We just need to know what you
I
want us to
think
do.
we've all seen them except for Dr. Rashani has not seen them. So if you
I've seen
want to take a refresh on it.
Don't do it for me. I've seen them.
Pardon?
Don't do it for me. I've seen them.
Oh, okay.
So you said Strand's comment was if the electronic sign moved forward, then look at the logo. If the electronic sign
Well,
doesn't
he
move
said,
forward.
he brought up a really good point that you should determine what you want to do with the brand refresh before you do the electronic signage. And that was an indicator to me that we didn't necessarily close the book on the logo. At least I don't think we did. Maybe we did, but we just want to know what you guys want us to do.
Well, I think is there a court problem with the logo?
From what I recall with what was presented back in August, I didn't deem one because the change wasn't in violation of that document.
Okay.
And there's some challenges with the current logo that make it difficult. So it could just be an evolution of the current logo that's pretty simple. I don't know, Kelsey, if you can speak to that, but
Yeah, it's just.
And Jody, I could too.
Yeah, go
Jason.
Hi guys, I was the one that was there in the August meeting, presented the new marketing concepts and the logo evolution, just some things that we had explored on the last logo. And I think, you know, we kind of tabled it after that. We moved forward with the marketing, the advertising campaign, but we didn't, we kind of tabled the logo at that point. But the big things that were, you know, brought up, some of the concerns with the existing logo was the line weight, you know, as it goes through as far as reproduction in a digital space. The readability of it was a big thing, the international airport as it goes below the hectare. The other thing was the line weight around the contrail on the jet that goes through the two H's. As we reproduce that in a smaller and especially in a more modern digital spaces that we're commonly advertising in, a lot of times that thing kind of closes in on itself. It's very hard to reproduce. And then the last and final concern that we had, or that's been brought to our attention over the years, was the fact that it may connotate that the jet looks like it was flying through the Twin Towers. Now that is debatable. That is a debatable thing. I mean, some people said it, you know, and other people have never seen it.
I think searching there.
Yeah, well, it's anecdotal, obviously, but at the same time, it's been brought to our attention. We didn't go out and find that. It was brought to our attention just anecdotally from some people. So that's kind of where we're at with the existing one. Now we could leave it the way it is. I know you guys have a lot of legacy with that logo. And I understand there's a lot of feelings that get involved with changing a logo or updating a logo. A couple of the options that we had were very small. I would consider them evolutions of them that remediate any of those issues that we have with the reproduction of the current logo. So there were some small evolutions, and then there were some ones that were very forward thinking that brought the FAR call letters from the airport to the forefront a little bit more, as far as more of a, I would say, a revolution versus an evolution of the logo goes. So we kind of explored 6 different options, and honestly, this is your guys' decision. We want to do the best work we can, put the best face forward for Hector and the Fargo Airport. So we just explored those options, but ultimately this is the board's decision, and your guys' direction we'll take moving forward. So.
Mr. Chairman, I think we tabled this, or just, you know, received and filed the information, and I suggest that we put it back on the agenda for discussion going forward at the next meeting. And Sean, just looking at the motion made on the electronic sign was to move forward with the next step as outlined by Gustafson. Gustafson had said next steps would be to determine a budget and a final design for the sign, and then he asked that with the more information comes a recommendation from staff on what to do with that sign. And so I would expect that you would be working with Ms. Gustafson on the additional information and bring a recommendation back to the board, whether you want to support the sign or not do the sign. That recommendation in this motion was for staff to bring that recommendation forward.
I can tell you right now, staff is opposed to the sign, so that's
Okay,
not going to change.
Well, that's
Now at
disappointing.
the next meeting,
That-
staff will.
That's very disappointing, because have you contacted Gustafson at all?
No, I mean, it's.
So you haven't done what was asked of you, and you're saying your recommendation is against.
It's not going to change, but that's fine. I'll get a hold of her.
That's very disappointing. I mean, it was very clear in the motion.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, to start out, predetermined, the staff recommendation is to not do the sign is something I guess we'll have to deal with when we receive the formal invitation.
And I'm hoping I'm wrong, but if not, maybe there's a little bit of a cart before the horse. We're talking, and that was really helpful to read. I mean, you know, we're talking about picking designs, and I'm not sure the proper engineering due diligence has been done of where the sign would go, sight lines to it coming from the east, sight lines coming to it from the west. I think those would be really important answers to have before we pick a design that might not fit into place because there's existing setbacks, future setbacks for the widening of 19th. I think it'd be really important to have engineering estimations of those features because they may predetermine what the size and scope of the sign needs to be.
That's what, just going back and looking at this motion, that's what staff was directed to do at this point. So, I would have, did you reach out? I know the question on 19th Avenue, did you reach out to the city?
We have the information from the city that was given to you before with the setbacks from 19th and also from the sanitary sewer, which really puts the sign at a location north of the curb. It's really irrelevant to eastbound traffic.
Well, again, Ms. Gustafson was saying that they were well within the parameters that they needed for the sign. So,
I don't know if she's talked with the city, but I'll check with her.
Well,
I think she had spoken to the city, and just for your reference, there was an RFP, and the Indigo was the
low bid.
The low bid, or
They were the
whatever.
only
But that's for
responder.
design.
For not just design, but just to sell, place, whatever to be the vendor.
Yeah.
And so perhaps when Jill is here next meeting, she can address something like sightlines. I know she talked about traffic and views and setbacks and electronics, and she's probably able to answer a wide variety of questions.
As long as we know what the setbacks would be with the expansion of 19th Avenue. If that sign has to be located in a position that it's irrelevant.
That's some of the information I thought we were going to gather from last meeting to this meeting.
I was, until the last meeting, I was unaware of the expansion or the widening of 19th Avenue.
And again, that's all part of the information that we'll be gathering.
And
part of the recommendation.
I'll expand on my concern of an engineer giving us those estimates versus the person selling us the sign. With all due respect to her, her solution if 19th gets widened is, well, you can move the sign and they'll have to pay for it. That doesn't seem like a good approach.
So just to address the concerns about the potential widening of 19th Avenue North, I have spoken to the city engineers, and there is no plan at this point to expand or widen 19th Avenue North. So that can be one issue that doesn't have to be a concern.
No.
That's interesting, and I'm not doubting what they told you. I'm just intrigued by it because it's not what they've told the university for years. We've made a lot of decisions on property use because 19th will be widened according to the city. So I'm confused because you're hearing
It's the
something
same
completely
information that
different.
we've been told too, and Brenda Derry was the city engineer. So if it's changed, they have not communicated that to us.
It was-
Nor the state.
It was the city engineering department, Jason and Jerome, and I do have documentation.
Except
I
it
just
doesn't
I just
compute.
wanted to make sure that we were crossing our T's and dotting our I's and making sure that it wasn't an idea.
I hope you don't hear me doubting
that it wasn't an
what you're
idea.
saying.
Yeah.
It just completely is counter to everything I've heard for a decade.
Mr. Chairman, I think item 12 can just be continued to the next meeting with staff given time to one of the things that requested at the last meeting. And to come forward. And Sean, I'm very disappointed to hear you say your recommendation is no on the side without doing the work that you were requested to do.
Change anything, but that's fine. I'm
Well,
sorry you're disappointed.
but that's a very disappointing thing to have, is that we've asked you to look into and get information, and you're telling us you've predetermined the answer is no, which just is very disappointing.
Okay. Anything else?
Jordan graduated from the Chamber Leadership Program last week. It was a 10-month program. He's one of 40 graduates. So,
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations, Jordan.
Jordan must be gone. Okay. If nothing else, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion's adjourned.